Hazel always knew there was something special about her cat Mooney, but she's still shocked when Mooney opens his mouth to tell her he's just had a vision. An ancient evil has awoken after centuries of sleep, and only one man can stop it, the legendary warrior Beowulf. Unfortunately, it's been over 1,000 years since he slayed a dragon, and he's been reincarnated as this guy. His name is Victor, and he's more unemployed millennial slacker than mighty warrior.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back to It's Like a Book Report, but fun.
I'm Grant.
I'm Angie.
She's lying. She's actually Grant, and I'm Angie.
So, it's been a minute. So this is our newish format where we have a couple of drinks. Where we drink. So, if you have children in the room and you don't want them to see us drink, shoo them out, I guess.
That's your problem for having kids.
Anyways, so we're going to talk about 3 comic books this time. We're going to try to do it quickly so this is not an hour-long video. And we're going to go from worst to best. I guess worst, depending on where you are.
None of these books are terrible, I don't
They're
think.
not terrible, but, you know.
None of them are great either, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
They're all just, they're okay.
Yeah. So, we're going to go with a controversial first one. This is called BRZRK, and if you're...
It's not called Berserk.
BRZRKR.
It's called BRZRKR.
BRZRKR.
You can't call it Berserk because there's another comic book that's,
Right.
from what I understand, is way better than this.
Right.
But everybody gets them confused.
Yeah. Even the person who read it is supposed to be giving a review.
Yeah, so the reason why the only reason why anybody's ever heard of BRZRKR is because it was written by a guy who's very, very famous for being a comic book creator. He's definitely not famous for being a movie actor. It's a guy by the name of Keanu Reeves. I don't know. I mean, he's mainly known as a comic book writer, but I guess he also has an acting career. Have you heard anything about that?
So, that's Grant's form of sarcasm. Yes. So, I'm going to sum it up to make this shorter. This book is fun, the art is cool, but much like a Keanu Reeves movie, no offense to the man, it's a lot of action and very light on plot.
The important thing about this comic book is that it was drawn by Ron Garney, who is tits. He's been awesome since the 90s. I've been a fan of his. He's only gotten more awesome. And of course, he hires the best artist to work on this comic book because it's Keanu freaking Reeves.
Right.
He has the money; he can afford to hire the best artist. But there's almost no character development. There's no storyline. Like the storyline is just there to go from one fight scene to another.
Yeah. The way I described it, it is a treatment for a movie, but he couldn't have any studio make the movie, so it became a comic book.
Yeah.
So I would say 3 out of 5, 2.5 out of 5.
I would say 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5.
I mean, I don't know. The art maybe bumps it up to a 3 out of 5.
Okay. So that's the first one. Comic book number 2 that we're going to do a short review on is The Magic Order, and Grant described it as Harry Potter for adults.
Yeah.
So because there's more violence, sex, etc.
There's really, honestly, there's really only one character. Like, there's one character who just likes to get, like, blind ass drunk and likes to, like, sleep with anything that moves. But other than that, it's really not that. I mean, I guess there's killing and stuff in it. But,
yeah, there is that.
So, okay, again, this comic book is by Mark Miller or Mark Millar. I don't know how you pronounce his name. I think he pronounces it Mark Miller, but if you call him Mark Miller, then nobody knows who you're talking about.
Right.
So he he again, he's got all the money in the world, so he had enough money to hire like the best artist, who is Oliver Coppel or Capel, however you pronounce it. Yeah, so we were talking a little bit, like one of the things that people don't like about Mark Millar is he kind of has a reputation for being a bit of an edgelord. Like sometimes he throws in stuff that's like shocking just for the sake of being shocking. Like there's one part where like, okay, one of the main characters is an escape artist, and she says like, the first trap I ever escaped from was escaping from my own abortion. And it's like, oh God, okay, you just threw that in there for it to be like edgelordy. So my number one problem with this comic book is that it doesn't feel like there are any like rules or limits to the magic.
Right.
So it feels like the main characters and the villain almost can just kind of do whatever they feel like.
Right.
Which, I mean, I feel like, to me, that's the difference between, like, good fantasy and bad fantasy. Like, with Lord of the Rings, it felt like the magic was, like, a little bit more grounded. Or, like, with Harry Potter, it definitely felt like there were limits to the spells. Like, you had to know a magic spell, you had to practice it, you had to concentrate. It wasn't like, it didn't feel like the characters could just do whatever they felt like.
Right, there's like laws of physics and geometry and, because if that were the case, then if they could do anything, then they would be demigods, and that's not what this comic book was about.
And the magic in this comic book very quickly turns into just kind of a Deus Ex Machina, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
I'm pretty sure you are.
But do you want to skip right into spoilers? Was there anything else you wanted to say before we got into spoilers? If you don't want spoilers, skip to this part of the video. I'll add that later when I'm editing this. Spoilers ahead. So the storyline centers around the villain trying to get hold of this sacred book that has a lot of forbidden spells in them. And the big finale of this book is one of the main characters saying, oh hey, you know what? It turns out all this time I've been sneaking into the library to read this forbidden book, and I actually know all of the spells, and so I'm going to cast one of the forbidden spells right now.
Right.
And there's like no ramifications to her casting this spell. There's like absolutely no reason why she couldn't have just been casting these spells. And I even read the volume 2. Angie didn't, but I read volume 2. And there's no ramifications in volume 2 either. I mean, it would have been interesting if volume 2 was just them dealing with the ramifications of this, but there wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that, like, if you read a lot of a lot of fiction in general, be it like fiction books or comic books, there are rules to like magic. Like, you do this thing, if you do it too much or the wrong way, it's gonna come back to you, and that there was none of that. That seemed to happen. It was just like do whatever.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, and I know I had a problem with one of the main characters, it turns out. I mean, again, this is spoilers, so if you don't want to know this, skip ahead. But one of the main characters, it turns out, betrays, the magic order. And I don't know, like, I didn't feel like there was any setup to that. Again, this is Mark Millar. He's kind of known for these big, gigantic plot twists that kind of just feel like they're kind of forced.
Right. As we said in the video we tried to film, for me, it's like M. Night Shyamalan, but like comic book version.
Yeah. So what were we doing on a scale of what, like 5 stars?
Yeah.
What would you give this on a scale?
3.
I would maybe go as high as 3.5.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 3.
Okay.
So our last book is in the universe of Hellboy, and is it Mike? Oh God, Mike Mignola is kind of like in charge of that universe. Right. What were your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, I think it's impressive that he has like a whole big universe of books. Because I mean, that's what every comic book creator wants. They want to be like. They want to be like Stan Lee or Jack Kirby and like be like, hey, I created this whole universe. And I think Mike Mignola is the one who's gotten the closest to doing that. Like, at least in modern times.
So, I mean, I think we both agreed the art was okay.
Yeah, I would have liked the art a lot better if I hadn't read the other 2 books first, because the art in those 2 books are amazing.
So, it's kind of, okay, we talked about, like, Wicker Man, but not Nicolas Cage. Wicker Man, or like Midsummer, that kind of like insulated society situation where like outsiders come in. Right.
It's about paranormal investigators who come to this small town, and it turns out that the town is run by like a cult. Right. So yeah, it reminded me of a less silly version of Wicker Man by. There's less punching of women in this comic book than there is in the Nicolas Cage Wicker Man. Right. So again, do you want to? Is there anything more you wanted to say before we get into spoilers?
No, I think I said what I wanted to say. So spoilers here.
So it turns out they have this rock that when you touch it, it transports you to this this other world or other dimension. I don't know if the rock came from this other dimension or other world, but so he's trying to convince the people of the village that this rock transports you to hell. Right. And so these paranormal investigators come in and they say, like, this is. You need to stop doing this cult, and they try to deprogram the cult, so to speak. Right. So it has a good setup. It's a very Twilight Zone-y kind of where it's like, okay, they come into this town and they know something is off, but they can't quite put their finger on it. Right. And the plot unfolds, and it's pretty interesting.
So, what I liked about it is in the universe of Hellboy, but it's not Hellboy. It's on the fringes, the outside of that universe, where these kind of, they're not like, quote unquote, the heroes. They're just kind of like average people trying to like figure, this out, whether it's real or not. But that's what I liked about it. And I hope there's more. I literally just picked this up because I liked the cover, essentially.
So what would you give this, like, out of 5 stars?
3.5.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, that would be my rating.
So I think most of these were... I think we just agreed Berserker was 3...
I would say 2.5 for me.
Okay, so Berserker's 2.5... Magic Order is 3. Yeah. And the British Paranormal Society is 3.5. Yeah. So none of these were great, but none of them were terrible either. Right.
Like if you see them in the library, take them out, try them out. You never know. I mean, everybody's opinion is a tad different. So, but that's our very long-awaited review of something else.
Yeah, sorry that this video took so long to get out there. We will try to be back again sooner.
Sooner, yes. Have a good day.